So in this video, we're going to discuss Instance.new. This is a way of being able to insert objects into your game from a script. Now you might want to insert objects whilst a round is running. There's always going to be use cases where you'll want to do this. After your game has been published and a server has been opened, you can't do anything else unless you do things from inside a script. So you can't manually insert parts or manually insert objects like you can right now in Studio. So how do we insert an item from a script? Well, it's really simple. You say instance.new, and then you put a pair of brackets or parentheses, and then you insert the name of the object you want to insert. And this is the class name. So every object in Roblox can have its own specific name. For example, we've got a base plate, a spawn location. These are all custom names. However, the class name is the actual underlying name of what the item actually is. So our base plate is called base plate, but it's actually a part, right? It's the same as any other part in the game, but it's just because it's so big and it's called the base plate, it's got a different name, but the class name is what matters here. So if we wanted to insert a part, we would just say in a string format by having two speech marks here, part. It's got to be case specific. You've got to have that capital P for part. You can view all of the different class names in the object browser. So there's all these different items that you can insert. Some of these are services, so you've got things like parts which you can insert. Have a look through later on. But what this will do is it will insert a part into the game. However, we can't set any properties of this part yet. We can't set its name, we can't set its position, we can't parent it to anywhere. So this won't do anything. It will insert a part, but it won't put it anywhere in the game, so we won't be able to see it. If we want to make further changes to this new part that we've created, well, the instance.new will return that part. So anything we would then do to this part would be done. So we could, for example, say .parent equals game.workspace. Okay, but still, how can we do things like changing properties? If I then wanted to change its transparency, what would I do? So you could say .transparency equals 1, but the problem here is, firstly, we haven't parented the object yet, and I'll come on to that later. But secondly, we can only set one property. I've set the property. Now how do I set the reflectance? No, that doesn't seem to want to work. It produces a red line. So what we need to do is we need to store the returned part from this instance.new as a variable, just like this. You can call the variable whatever you like. It doesn't have to be case sensitive. I could call it cheeseburger if I wanted to, or anything, but I'm just going to call it part for simplicity. And then I can say part.transparency equals 1, part.anchored equals true, part.position could be a vector3 value of some location. You can set as many properties as you like. You can even set the name. I could call it my part. But we still need to parent this part. Nothing is going to appear in the game world unless we parent it. And when I say parent it, it means we have to put it somewhere in the game so we can see it. And that means we need to put it into the workspace, because the workspace is where everything gets rendered for us to see. So part.parent equals game.workspace. And what this will do is it will place our part in the game. If I click on run, straight away when this script runs, if we look around, we should find our part. Let's have a look in the workspace. Okay, here it is, my part. Of course, we can't see it because I set the transparency to 1. However, you can see it has been created there. Okay, so you will notice that I've parented the instance last. Why have I set the parent property last? This is because I want to firstly create my part. I want to set all of the properties, and then I want to place it into the game world. And this is because when we place it into the game world, it will be replicated to all of the other players in the game. So we've created this part on the server. The game server has created it. And once it's been created, it's going to send a signal to all of the other players in the game saying, okay, there's been a change. We've inserted this part. And this part has got a transparency of 1. It is anchored. Its position is here. We've called it my part. That's all the information you need. And we could just broadcast that in one signal. Now this is all done under the hood by Roblox. You won't see it happening. But when a part is parented, that is when the server sort of broadcasts this message to all of the players in the game saying, okay, this part has been created, here is the latest update. If we were to parent it first, and we were then going to change all these properties afterwards, every time we change the property, it would have to broadcast one of those messages. It would do it for the transparency, for the anchored property, for the part position, for the name, right? So instead of having to have those individual signals being sent every time we make a change to this part, right? We could just set all of the properties in one go before the part has been replicated, and then parent it, which is going to replicate it with just one signal. Now, I'm sort of explaining this at a high level. It's a little bit more complex than that, but you just don't really need to understand. What I'm saying is, for best practice, you want to parent the object to wherever you're putting it after you've set all of the properties. Okay, you may have seen in other videos what people have done is they've parented the item straight away by having a second argument here in the Instance.new. And whilst this does work, again, it's not best practice because it is parenting the item first to the workspace, and then we're changing all these properties on the server, and the server has got to replicate all of these changes by sending a message over the network to the connected players or the connected clients. So what we can do is we can save having to send those repeated signals out by setting the properties first and then parenting it once they've all been set. And it's just best practice. It's not going to, it's probably not going to cause noticeable problems in your game, but among scripters, it's the best practice to set your properties first and then parent it, okay? So that is Instance.new. You don't have to just use it for parts. You could use it for all sorts of different use cases. For example, in your game, you might have a game mode where it is murderers against sheriffs. You want to insert a murderers team. You can just say Instance.new team murderers.name equals murderers, okay, and murderers.parent equals game.teams, and you could do the same thing for a sheriff's team. Okay, now you may be saying, okay, but why not just have the teams created in Studio? Why do you have to create them via a script? And that's very true, but you might have different rounds, and if the murderers v sheriffs round is selected, you only want to have these teams created. If you might have another round where it's a completely different set of teams. I'm just showing you how you can use Instance.new to insert teams into your game like this, okay? And there we go, our murderers team is there. Not sure why the sheriffs aren't showing up. I think that's a UI bug with Roblox. However, that is Instance.new. Hopefully you get the idea of how to use it. Let me know if you have any more questions, video ideas. Drop a like if you found this useful. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.